I'm Rob Hake with Weiland, and we're here today to talk about windows. Windows specifically for food facilities. So we have a variety of things to show you. We're going to start by talking about what you typically would think about when you're thinking about windows, which is your basic aluminum storefront window that you see all over the country. So why, if you were an architect or if you're an owner, wouldn't you put an basic aluminum window in your food facility? We know these look nice. We know they're fairly affordable, but there are some disadvantages. The disadvantages relate to kind of two big categories. One's the thermal property, and the other is the food safety components. So starting with the thermal part, the thermal properties, you can buy aluminum windows with a thermal break. This is a thermally broken window. You can see this little black part in between here is the thermal break. So if one side of the window, that physical metal is cold, it does not transfer to the other side through the actual metal. But you still will probably have thermal issues if you have a pretty good temperature difference. And that's because of the void within the frame. Aluminum windows are designed to be hollow. Okay, you might think, hey, why don't you just foam these aluminum frames? That way they're not hollow. I thought the same thing, but it doesn't work that way. These things are designed so that water can get in, drain in through the frame, and then drain out. Okay, so if you ever were to see somebody install these in the outside of the building, the very first thing they're going to put in is a sill plate, like a basin that captures water and sheds it to the outside. And the reason for that is when you're working with aluminum, there's always these little gaps in the corners. It's not welded. There's the only thing holding this glass in is this physical gasket, and that gasket wants to expand and contract. So there's no great way to keep water out. So by design, these are meant to let water go in and then shed out. Now, because of that, then you can't foam fill it. And if you're not foam filling it, then that cold air on this side is going to make its way into the cavity of the frame. So the back side of that frame now is going to be cold by nature. And then you're likely to have condensation issues. So that's probably one of the biggest drawbacks in that cold to warm environment, because nobody wants condensation. Kind of the other big thing related to that, we talked about how you can't foam it. This is the food safety part. If you can't foam fill that, and now there's voids within there that every day somebody on your facility management team, and they're washing windows down, if water's getting in and other types of material essentially is getting in, you can't get in there and clean it out. You have a huge risk for bacteria growth within your window frame. That's a huge risk. So that's probably one of the biggest disadvantages, even beyond the thermal. So you got the thermal, you got the food safety part with bacteria. But then you also have the risk of glass. So if you have a thermal application, you don't want raw glass in your facility. What would happen if something were to break this glass and the grass is on the ground, and now you're worried about glass getting within the product? That's a big risk. And these types of windows aren't designed very well to protect the glass. So you have thermal issues, you have glass breakage risk, and you have serious risk with things getting inside of that frame and growing and turning into some type of major problem. So these here, as much as you see them all over commercial buildings, these are not recommended in food facilities. This here is what we do for food facilities. We have a thermally broken stainless steel window frame made specifically for IMP applications. And we're considering thermal properties and cleanability with our design. So if you look at our standard split window, you can see that our metal that we have on one side does not continue through the other side, okay? And that split design gives you the ability to install it from one side of the wall, completely foam fill it, and then put the back trim on. And then you don't worry about what's going on inside of that wall, inside of the frame, just because it has a different construction method. The other big thing to kind of think about is all the different glazing options. So depending upon what your temperature difference is, you might be okay with just solid polycarbonate. Solid polycarbonate, if it's the good scratch resistant kind, which is all we ever do, it works really, really well in food. You don't worry about breakage at all. It does have the chance for scratching, but that's usually what's preferred if there isn't a big temp difference. Now, if there is that temperature delta from one side to the other, that's when you want to start thinking about insulated glass or potentially heated glass. But with that, you need to think about, okay, is there open food product that we need to protect from the risk of glass breakage? So something we've been doing for years that works really well is we can get glass, whether it's your basic insulated glass or your heated glass, and we can laminate that glass with a really thick gauge safety film. So it's essentially just a thin layer of plastic that gets laminated onto the outside of either one or both sides of the glass. So if you have an application that goes from an office to production, maybe you only want to put this film on the production side. But if both sides are production, we can put this film on both sides. And then what you're getting is the thermal properties of glass, but you get the risk protection of having plastic coating that glass. We for years have also really relied on heated glass. So in some applications in the inside of a building, when you're going from that 35 to office condition, man, that's the type of environment where if your humidity level is a little bit high on that warm side, your typical glass isn't enough to keep from condensation from forming. So, and especially if you're getting colder than the mid 30s, that's when you really want to consider heated glass. So we work with OEMs to bring in heated glass. The heated glass comes in with SJO cords already pre-attached to the glazed units. We can leave it as that raw glass, or we can coat the heated glass with the same safety film. And then you can provide 120 volt power to the unit, and now that glass radiates heat. So now you're not worried about condensation on the glass. That split frame design, you're not worried about bacteria growth within the frame. Our sloped design lets you shed water. These are all the things that we have kind of refined over the years to really make a window specifically for food facilities. And it really is neat when you go into these facilities now and you see how much more open they are than they used to be. And you can connect the office environment with production. It kind of brings everyone together. There's more accountability. People are happier in general. It's just a better place to work when it lets more light in. We love the windows, and our customers love the windows, but we want to just, for more people to understand, why do you do this type of window than your basic window? If you have any more questions as it relates to your unique conditions, your sizing, whether or not you need the film, whether or not you need the heat, we have a fantastic team of sales engineers that can walk you through the pros and cons and what the different things, the different considerations are. So call our team anytime. We're glad to help, and hopefully we'll be able to have our windows in your facility.